Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So let's go ahead and discuss the second module of our subject, web designing. So when you complete this module, you will be able to at least understand the web design environment. We will be designing for multiple screen resolutions. We'll also be discussing about the way how we craft the look and feel of our website. We will be creating a unified site design, and of course, how we can achieve a design for the user and accessibility. So you also have to expect that I will also introduce a software for us to use in the same to web designing, and at the same time some basic web designing concepts in terms of coding. So this module actually covers the design principles that you will apply to your web page designing as you work through this course. Now, by examining current web design theories and viewing a variety of websites, you will now learn to focus on both the user's need and the requirements of the content you want to deliver. Number one, you have to understand the web design environment, especially in terms of web designing. To be successful, your website must be portable and accessible by users who have a variety of browsers, operating systems, device platforms, and physical abilities. Many designers make the mistake of testing in only one environment. Okay, and assuming that their pages look the same to all of their users. No matter how much web design experience you gain, you always have to remember to test in different environments and with different users, even when you feel confident to your results. Now, there are some things that we might want to consider, especially when designing our web page. Of course, especially sa web design environment natin. Number one is actually the browser compatibility issues. You have to be familiar with the different browser available out there. Either Google Chrome man yan, Mozilla Firefox man yan, Opera Mini, Safari, and many more. One of the greatest challenges facing web designers is actually designing the pages that multiple browsers can display properly. Now, as a web page designer, you must test your work in as many as browsers as possible to ensure that the work you create appears as you designed it. Okay, so you might be surprised to see that the results of your HTML code can look different when viewed with various browsers. That's why I suggest every time you are creating an HTML project or an HTML file, you have to right click on that one and try to view your output, your web page design in other browsers. So, wag tayong laging Google Chrome, no? Pero try lang natin din. Now, we also have to consider the connection speed differences, especially our the internet connection speed. This will actually play a big role in terms of how your multimedia elements are being loaded in your web design. If pages download slowly because they contain large detailed graphics or complicated animations, users may click to go to another site before they even see a portion of content. That's why, kung napansin nyo, the graphic design is actually a continuation of our subject, web designing. Since you already know how to resize some images, how to convert some files in like smaller version of those files, we can actually we can safely assume that we know how to add some multimedia elements that are not big enough in our web page. Remember, kapag ka mas malaki yung file na nilalagay mo, of course, it might take a while. Okay. Next, browser cache and download times. The cache in the browser's temporary storage area for web pages and images. Now, the browser always tries to load images from the cache rather than downloading them again from the web. You can take advantage of the browser's caching capabilities by reusing graphics as much as possible throughout your site. Now, for example, once an image is downloaded, it remains in your user's cache for the number of days specified in the user's preference settings. Okay? And you also have to consider some device and operating system issues as well. The best method for dealing with this variety of combination is, of course, to test your content on as many devices as possible. Remember the following color points, or I mean points about the different computer systems. Number one, the screen sizes and color depth. Screen resolutions and sizes, the color depth, and video hardware and software may affect the look of your web pages. So, you always have to consider kung saan mo nga ba view yung web page mo. Okay? You also have to consider the browser type and the version of your browser. Uh, they are available for every computing devices, ranging from the traditional browsers for the PC and of course for Mac users. Now, for newer browsers and tablet users or tablet and smartphones, and to device specific and more obscure browsers, you have to at least consider their browser type. I suggest you always make sure to update them. Okay, you have to update them. You have to make sure na lahat na ng mga security measures, lahat na ng mga graphics update or anything that needs to be updated must be updated. Okay? And of course, font choices. It's also very important to install or use fonts that are viewable because, or at least, say for example, here's a scenario. You have created a web page. Ang ganda ng web page mo because of the font that you have created. But the problem there is once you transferred your output into another computer or you uploaded that into the web itself, the fonts might not look at exactly the same font that you have used based from your project, because those installed fonts vary widely from one computer to another, so you have to be very careful when choosing those fonts. Okay, so I suggest you choose fonts for you know for that is commonly used for the web. You can just simply do a simple Google search for that one. Okay? That's actually the way how we understand the web design environment. Since we already know the web design environment, let's actually talk about the way how we design for multiple screen resolutions. Now, when we say screen resolution, it's actually the width and the height of your screen in pixels. Now, those most desktop kasi and laptop computer monitors can be set to a number of different resolutions. Mobile devices such as tablets and smartphones generally have fixed resolutions that cannot be changed. In in terms of the desktop and laptop display, I have here a figure which is actually the most common desktop and laptop screen resolution. According to this website here, the most common or the most popular computer screen resolution is actually 1366 by 768. Now, maybe you are wondering, sir, paano ko po ba makikita ang screen resolution ng aking PC? All you have to do is to simply right-click your desktop, go to display settings, and you can just simply go ahead and check your display resolution dito sa part na to. So in my case, my screen or desktop resolution is 3440 by 1440. So ibig sabihin masyadong malaki, 'di ba? Ultra wide monitor ito. So from here dito sa may upper left corner ng screen ko, mahaba ito kasi, 'di ba? The most common, especially for computer shops, yung mga yan, 13666 by 78. And right now, we also have the 1920 by 1080 that is actually being used in our computer laboratories. Now, to accommodate a range of screen sizes and resolution, Amazon, for example, this website here, uses a flexible layout in their page designs. Figure 2.4 shows the Amazon.com website in 1366 by 768 resolution, and in figure 2.5 shows the same page but this time with a bigger resolution. Now, in let's try to visit our Amazon. Tingnan natin kung anong magiging itsura niyan sa dito. Yan. So, if you notice, since I'm using an ultra-wide monitor, medyo, 'di ba, malaki yung space dito sa may left and right portion ng screen ko. Unlike kapag ka mga 1366 by 768, 'di ba? Parang naka full screen siya. That's the only disadvantage of this resolution. For example, in YouTube, yan, ganun din. Medyo may space din dito sa part na to, 'di ba? How about Facebook? Ganun din. Malaki yung space dito sa may yellow na part na to. All right? All right. In contrast, the National Park Services uses a fixed design that doesn't actually change based on user screen resolution. Now let's take a look at this one, the National Park Services website at 1024 by 768, which is very very small in terms of the screen resolution. Now notice that the page fills the screen. The designers built the site with this resolution as the base for their design. Ito to National Park Service. Although medyo luma na yan, di ba? Now, as the screen resolution changes, a web page with a fixed design stays centered in the browser window, just like what I have shown you earlier, di ba? When we are browsing for, browsing some website using my screen resolution, which is an ultra-wide monitor, yan. 'Di ba medyo sa may left and right part talagang ano 'no, ang tawag dito, maraming space, 'di ba? Although there is actually a benefit for of using, of centering effects with pages. Uh, the benefit of that one is that the layout of the content remains unchanged no matter what the user screen resolution. Although just going back to the Amazon, yan, nung medyo try nating paliitan ng konti ito ano natin, itong yan, 'di ba? So every time na nag-change yung ano natin, responsive naman siya, 'di ba? How about Lazada? So using Lazada, hindi siya gaano nag-change na hindi siya responsive. So naka-center siya no pag Lazada and other web pages out there or websites na meron tayo. Now, aside from the desktop resolutions, we also have to consider those mobile devices resolution. In addition to widescreen and standard monitors, mobile devices usage has exploded in the last few years. Adding to the number of screen sizes and resolutions web designers must contend with, smartphones and tablets running the Apple iOS and Android operating systems come in a multiple of sizes that complicate the web designer's job. Now, let's take a look at this figure here. It shows us the popular mobile screen resolution. As of the moment, it's actually 320 by 480, and surprisingly amazing. Even though this was from 2012 to July 2013, at up until now, itong 320 by 480 pa rin, nandun pa rin. This resolution is actually still being used by majority of those one. Let's try to take a look of some website, for example, YouTube. All right, so let's try to view this one on using a mobile phone. So let's right click tapos inspect natin tapos siguro pindutin na lang natin tong let's toggle this one. And toggle device toolbar control shift N. Yan. So kung napansin natin nung tinoggle ko yung mobile view, ayan, 'di ba? This is actually responsive. So this is the good thing about Google because it has a built-in uh web or the resolution sizes. So for example, if you have an iPhone 12 Pro, and automatic your Google will be viewed using this one, using this resolution. So if you have Samsung Galaxy Fold, ganun din, di ba? So ganyan pala ang itsura niyan. Yan. So although this is responsive, that's a good thing. And okay. So yan, responsive design. Ano nga ba yung responsive design na yan? The using responsive design approach, you design your web pages to adapt to different sizes of screen from smartphone to desktop using CSS styles and media queries. The major benefit of this strategy is that maintenance and updates are limited to a single set of content and web pages. Although the challenge here is of course the way how we refine the design and create the style code so that the pages render appropriately across different devices. This technique is called what we call responsive design in web paging. A method of designing websites that are adaptable to a wide range of devices from mobile phones to desktop monitors. Now, let's take a look at this figure below here, itong figure 210 natin. So, this is an example of a website that can be viewed in a desktop. Tapos kapag ka-convert yan into a mobile, it looks something like that. Diba? In a widescreen monitor, ganyan din. In a laptop monitor, it will look something like that. Now, there are some suggestions for solving the screen resolution dilemma. Which of the layout or which of the two layout types, fixed or flexible, is right for your design? Currently, there are some mainstream sites that still use fixed design. Actually, pinakita ko sa inyo, di ba? Fixed designs require mobile users to pan, to zoom, and of course, to scroll and to read some content. So, designs that are flexible are more adaptable for the user and to multiple devices. You might want to consider the following advantages of each type of designing. So, pagka gusto mo kasi mag-design ng website that are actually flexible or responsive web design, there are some advantages. Of course, the user controls the view of the content. Although, yan, there is also a less chance of horizontal scrolling, which I personally hated the most, horizontal scrolling. Yan, gusto ko kasi lahat ng information, lahat ng parts ng website na ginagawa ko, nandun na, as is na siya. More flexibility for multiple devices, and better suited to text-based layouts and simpler designs. Fixed, although kapag ka fixed with design yung pipiliin mo, the advantages are the following. Of course, the designer controls the view of the content as the web developer, di ba? Web designer. It will also allow more complex page layouts and more control over the text length. Ayan. Okay. Next, aside from the desktop resolutions, aside from the resolutions that we have actually discussed, we will be considering the way how we craft the look and feel of the site. The interface that the user must navigate is often called the look and feel of a website. Users look and feel when they explore your site. They read the text, make associations with links, view multimedia, and depending on the freedom of your design, you can also create their own path through your information. So you have to consider the following. Number one, you have to balance the design and content. Hindi porke maganda yung design mo dapat pangit na yung content mo. It should be balanced. A website's design should complement the content and support the reader. So, depende if what kind of websites you are targeting, you have to consider creating a website that simply balance the design and content. If you're creating a website that is all about gaming, of course, the design of your website should be also related. The colors, especially, should be related to gaming as well. Yan. The information should be logically divided and structured to expose to similar groupings of content and then provide access to the content through designed navigation. When in doubt, always choose simple and direct designs that showcase content and allow easy access and set aside unneeded technology and complex visual designs that can frustrate and misdirect your user. Number two, you also have to plan for easy access to your information. Your information design is the single most important factor influencing the success of your website because it determines how easily users can access your web content. Now, as a web designer, you have your main goal to at least direct your viewer to look or to where you want your viewers to look at your website in particular. Say for example, kung gusto mong maipakita mo na yung part dito na say for example in the homepage, if you want the user to simply look at the upper left portion of the screen, definitely you have to create and separate division classes on that one. Diba? Your goal here is to organize your content and present it as a meaningful, navigable set of information. Ayan. So your navigation options should present a variety of choices to users without detracting from their quests for information. That's number two. Number three, you have to plan for clear presentation of your information as well. You have to keep in mind that readers have different habits when reading online compared to how they read printed text. Online visitors scan more and read less. 'Di ba? So, kahit ako hindi ko naman lalo kapag mga ang binibisita ko mga informative websites, hindi ko naman talaga totally babasahin 'yan lahat. 'Di ba? Skimming long pages quickly as they scroll through the text include plenty of headings so users can find content quickly. So you have to control the width of your text to provide complete easy to read columns rather than presenting long scrolling pages. So you can break those information into smaller chunks and link them with hypertext. So for example, ito, di ba? The figure here, it offers both clear presentation and easy access to information as shown in figure 211. The navigation links on the top of the page are organized and offer clear descriptions of their destination. So you have here the search tool, you have here the home page and the navigation links. And of course, there are some plenty of white spaces as well. Ba ang ganda ng pagkakagawa dito. Now, as a viewer or as the user who visited this website, of course, una kong titignan dyan is yung title, followed by the homepage, upper left corner, pababa, andito na lahat yan. Kumbaga, pag ganito ang view ko dyan. Ba? That's how we craft the look and feel of our website. Next, we can create a unified site design as well. When designing your website, you can also plan the unifying themes and structure that will hold the pages together. Your choices of colors, fonts, graphics, and page layout should communicate a visual theme to users that orients them to your site's content. The theme should also reflect the impression that you and your organization want to convey. When you design a site, you must consider more than each page. For well-integrated unified site, plan smooth transitions, use a grid to provide visual structure, and include active white spaces. So, number one here that you have to consider, again, for creating unified design, plan those smooth transitions. Although hindi pa natin nadidiscuss kung paano maglagay ng transition, ewan ko kung abot tayo dun eh. Pero in terms of planning the smooth transitions, think of users turning the pages of a periodical when they browse from web page to another web page. Although each page should be a complete entity, it also is a part of the whole site. The overall design of a page at any information level should reflect the identity of the site as a whole. For example, in this one, it shows the main page and then a secondary level page from the Los Angeles Zoo website. So we have the web page here. Diba? It's still consistent. The search bar is here. The logo is here. The navigation links are here. The fonts and the color of the fonts are consistent. Tapos kapag ka nag-visit ka ng ibang links dito, ibang navigation links, they are also consistent. Yan. So, the transitioning, the transitioning between the home page to the other links are actually very smooth. It's actually subtle. It's really good, di ba? Hindi siya literal na nag-transition, pero, you know, consistency is actually always the key of this one. Now, you can also use a grid to provide visual structure. The structure of a web page is imposed by the grid or page template you choose for your page design. The grid is a conceptual layout device that aligns your page content into columns and arrows. Columns and rows, I'm sorry. You can impose a grid to provide visual consistency throughout your website. Use the grid to enforce structure, but you can also break out of the grid to provide variety and highlight important information. Figure 214 shows a web page divided into 4 columns and 8 rows. These grid sections provide placement guidelines for page elements, each of which can cover multiple rows and columns of the grid as needed. And as shown is figure 215. So, meron tayong 4-column grid, meron din tayong 4-column grid with layout elements. So, siguro dito yung header, dito yung may, or navigation link. This is the information. This is another information. This is somehow kung saan mo gustong ipakita yung mga other information mo. Now, this Guardian main page here, the guardian.co.uk in figure 216, has a 6-column grid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All of the text and graphic elements on the page align within the grid to create an orderly layout. You have the header, you have the grids here. Right? Next, you can also use active white space. And white spaces are the blank areas of a page, regardless of the color you choose to give them. Now, when we say white space in graphic design, alam naman natin yun, di ba? Siya po yung part ng ating design na hindi nilalagyan ng kahit anong element. So, those are the blank. Good use of white space guides the reader and defines the areas of your page. White space that is used deliberately is actually called active white space and is an integral part of your design because it structures and separates content. Sometimes, the strongest part of a design is the active white space. Passive white space includes the blank areas that border the screen or are the result of mismatched shape. So, figure 217 here actually illustrates active versus passive white spaces. When we say active white spaces, ito po yun. So, these are simply the gap between the layouts as well. Kapag passive white space, ito yun, yung mga hindi totally nagamit. Diba? Yan. We also have the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum homepage in figure 218. It shows effective use of active white spaces, making the content easy to read. And yeah, so you have the white space that separates navigation from content. We also have white space separates the main content. White space separates website section headings. Andyan siya. Okay, now we also can design. And we can also consider the way how we design for the user. You have to keep your design efforts centered solely on your user. Knowledge of your audience can help you answer almost all design questions. If it serves the audience, keep it. If it is potentially distracting or annoying, try to eliminate that or try to minimize that one. Consider the main page for the Internal Revenue Service, this one. Users who come to these websites are looking for a range of specific topics. The navigation links, especially on the top, column headings, and feature items are all designed to let users get information as quickly as possible. Di ba? So you have here the navigation links, you have here the pertinent topic headings, and the featured items. We can also design for interaction. And number one, design for interaction. Think about how the user wants to interact with the information on your web page. Design for your content type and decide whether the user is likely to read or scan your pages. Say, for example, suppose your page is a collection of links, such as a main page or section page. The users want to interact with these types of pages by scanning the content, scrolling if necessary, pointing to the graphics to see if they are hyperlinked, and clicking link text. Design descriptions. Design for this type of user interaction by using meaningful column headings, link text, and short descriptions. So you can also organize links into related topic groups and separate groupings with white space, graphics, or background color. And design for interaction, how your user can interact with your website. On the other hand, you can also design for location. The user can traverse a page in a variety of ways. Or for example, from the home page, uh, pupunta siya dito, pupunta siya dito, and so on. According here, the human factor study shows a wide range of results when tracking a user's eyes movement. As you plan your design, you can actually guide them where you want your user view your website as well. Parang ito, 'di ba? If I want my user to look first dito sa my part ng homepage natin, I can simply design a web page that will allow my user to look on the upper right corner of my screen, going back to the left part of my screen, up to the right, up to the left, up to the right, and so on. 'Di ba? Now, fixed width designs tend to have the same proportions. Saan nga ba to mostly applicable? In Lazada or in other shopping services. You don't really care about how you view your this website ng pababa, 'di ba? You somehow view them from here papunta dito. Tapos somehow yung iba, ako kasi personally after ko dito mag-view, hindi ako pumupunta rito. Iniilalim ko yan dito. 'Di ba? So that's only an example of that one. So kung paano siya na-apply na maayos. Yan. In contrast to figure 223, ito from left to right, we have here it can simply fill the screen. Users may scan information following a clockwise pattern as shown in figure 224. Itong from the homepage, papunta dito, usually nangyayari yan sa may Wikipedia. Yan. We also have the third pattern found in eye tracking studies performed by Jacob Nielsen. Users often read web pages in an F-shaped pattern, two horizontal scans, and followed by a vertical scanning. So, parang ito, to figure 225 natin. And so, according to the study, the dominant reading patterns tend to follow the sequence. The users first read across the top of the page, which is very important. Ako, di ba? Pag nag-visit kayo ng Lazada, tinitignan mo dito kung ano yung mga meron dito. And or in other websites as well. Tapos, next, the users move down the page a bit and scan across the page again. This scan is typically shorter than the first. Finally, users scan the content left side in a vertical movement, and sometimes this is fairly slow and systematic scan of the content. And in addition to knowing how the users view your web pages, you should also know what expectation he or she might have about your navigation and content. Users have come to expect common elements of a web page in certain locations. Okay? So, questions so far? Ano naman? We can also design for accessibility. So, any large audience for a website includes users who want to access your content despite certain physical challenges. Designing for accessibility means developing web pages that remain accessible despite any physical sensory and cognitive disabilities. work constraints, or technological barriers on the part of the user. So you have to consider designing a web page or designing a website based on the accessibility. So for example, if you're creating a website for blog, ganyan ang magiging tsura niya. If you're creating a web design for an email, it looks something like that. If it is for a photo gallery or any portfolio, it looks something like this. On the other hand. Okay? Now let's move on with the way how we plan those website layouts. Now, a website can be divided into various sections comprising of header, yan, we have menus, content and footer, yan, based on which there are many different layouts design available for developer. Different layouts can be created using any div tag and use CSS property. The most common structure of website layout is this one. All right, so before we continue this one, let me fast track to our activity. So your task for this one is actually a continuation of your performance check number one. You have to visualize your your web proposal that you have created from your activity last week. So you have to visualize the web page design for your site from module 1. Siguro pwede kayong mag-drawing kagaya ng nakikita nyo dito. Or you can just simply use other online tool, okay, na meron tayo. Pwede rin kayong gumamit ng Photoshop, like maglagay lang kayo ng mga rectangle. Ay, maglagay lang kayo ng mga rectangle. Pwede na yun. Basta parang makita ko lang ang itsura ni web layout nyo. Our target here kasi is to convert this web page design into a simple HTML and CSS. Take note, no need for you to add any information as of the moment. The next part of our discussion is actually the way on how we code or how we plan our website properly. So let's go back here to our discussion. Say for example, you have chosen a web layout that looks something like this. You have the header, the navigation menu, the content, the main content sa gitna, and another content for the right part of the screen, and a footer on below. Our task is for us to convert that into of course, into something. Diba? Now, nung last week kasi pinakita ko sa inyo kung paano mag-code ng HTML and CSS, correct? So, medyo nahihirapan tayong gumamit ng notepad. So, for today, I'll be showing you how to create a web page using much easier tool. So, we have here Sublime. Okay, so I want you to go to this website, sublimetext.com. Let's download this one and download for Windows. And let's actually wait for this one to be downloaded. So, antay ko lang. Ano lang natin to? May IDM naman ako. Cancel ko na lang yan. Yan. Antay lang natin, Mabilis, 30 seconds, 10 seconds. Ayan. Okay. So, let's open. Let me install Sublime here. Kahit saan. Add. Install. This is a very good website for us to start with our web designing. Okay? So, ito na siya. Sublime Text. It will now look something like this. Ayan. So, ito ilagay ko dito. Now, I want everyone to create or let's say, go to your desktop and create an HTML file. Siguro ako, let me create here Control N. Click on Control N, go to File, and New File. Let's save this one as the header. Header.html. Ayan. So, header.html. So, andito na siya. Header.html. Let me drag and drop this one to our Google. And we can actually start coding our webpage here. Our target is for us to plan our website using this one. Ito yung napaka-sample lang natin na web layout. Now, let's try to create here first the header section. usually it's generally placed either at the top of the website or, just below a top navigation menu. So the good thing about Sublime Editor is that we have a color-coded version of our code. So let's start by creating the doctype HTML. Okay. We can create the HTML tags. Tapos, try to practice making websites or creating websites that has an indentation to it. So we have here head. Let's put a title as well. Siguro ang title nito is teka, pangalan ko na lang, Jezreel's Web Sites, for example. And so we have here the title. So pagka i-refresh natin dito, ayun, nakita na natin yung Jezreel's website. So, let's also put here a CSS style sheet dito siguro. And saka natin yan lalagyan ng ano mamaya, ng something. Diba? Kahit wala na muna ito, kahit ganyan lang muna. So, let's leave it blank. Let's move on to the body. Ayan. Sa body natin, let me introduce to you what we called H2. Diba? Ang H2, alam naman natin na tawag dito, heading. For example, web design. Lagay natin ganyan. So, kapag right click natin yan, automatic nagpakita na dito. Diba? Now, since we are creating here a web design that has a green part, tapos you have a remaining section dito siguro, yan, siguro i-center natin yung remaining section na word natin, remaining section. Let's center that one. Ayun, nag-center siya. Gagawa tayo dito ng tinatawag natin na div classes. Div simply stands for divide or division or divider. Mga ganyan. So, basically, what we are trying to do here is to create parts of our web pages. So, since this is a header, gagawa tayo dito ng div class na itututok natin, ipopointer natin kay header. So, in this case, I will be creating here the div tag and I'll be declaring that one as a class with an exact name of header. Sabihin, papangalanan ko tong si div class na to magmula kay H2 hanggang kay end ni H2 mismo. Yan. Okay, gets ba natin? Lagay ko to sa ilalim. So, meaning, kapag tinawag natin mamaya si header, may makikita tayo dito something. Okay, may mangyayari dito na bagay. So, dito sa center, siguro lagyan natin to ng style, which is actually the font. Yung font size natin is around 200%. And remaining section, let's place that one here. Okay. So, let's right-click. Lumaki yung font nito. Walang nangyari, di ba? Walang nangyari nung naglagay tayo ng div. Definitely, wala talaga mangyayari dyan. Kasi we only have, place this one in an imaginary container na tong si H2 pala nasa loob ng div classes. Para makita natin kung may nangyayari ba, we can simply work on this one by using the CSS style. So, inside the style tag, dito sa style tag natin, we have here the header. Okay, so how are we going to use the class header here? We can just simply use dot header. Sabihin we are pointing. We are simply using the header. Dito. We can now change the background color. Ito. Background color. Siguro gawin natin itong green. Yan. Now, for the padding is simply the space between tapos center. Yan. Tignan natin. Right-click natin to. Ayun. Diba? Now, maybe you're wondering, para saan ba ang padding? Sige, let's try to place our padding here or convert our padding into 100 pixels. Ayun. Diba? The padding is simply the way how we pad the division. So, meron tayong 15 pixels. The space between here up to dito. Yan. So, mula dito hanggang dito. Although pangit yung kulay ni web design natin, lagay tayo dyan ng color. So, lagay tayo ng h2 style is equal to color.white. Yan. Diba? So, okay na yung header natin. Meron tayong nilagay dyan na header. So, kung napansin nyo, nag-change ako dito ng resolution. Sumusunod naman. So far, so good. Diba? Next is for us to create the navigation menu. The navigation menu bar is basically a set or a list of links that allows visitor to navigate through the website comfortably with easy access. So, punta tayo dito. Try natin gawin natin tong part na to. Ito. Yung navigation part natin. So, let's work on here with this one. Dito. Nandito siya sa ilalim, no? So, create tayo ulit ng panibagong div class. Ayan. Pero this time, I would like to name my div class as nav_menu. Yan, nav_menu. Then, let's create here 3 different links. So, we have here href. Itututok ko muna siya for the meantime into null. Null means asterisk in web designing. So, kapag kaklinik natin to, wala siyang pupuntahan. Pero clickable siya. And so, I'll put that as home. Ito naman, siguro about us. Siguro naman ito is contact us. Ayan. So, save nyo yan. Right click. Ayun, nagpakita na dito, di ba? So, we can simply convert this one into another thing. Lagay tayo dito ng break line para bumaba ng konti ito. Yung bumaba nga siya. Alright. So, since what we are planning to do here is to convert this one into a clickable, ayan, magiging ganyan ang itsura niyan. We will be working on with the CSS of this one. So, let's go here. Okay, just below the header, let's create here the nav menu. Ayan, open and close curly braces. Pero this time, yung links ang gagamitin natin. So, that nav menu links. I would like to have a floating. And yung float niya into left. Kumbaga, nandito lahat siya. Tapos, the way how it can be displayed is by block. Again, you can always view the W3 Schools website kung ano ibig sabihin ng mga to, no? Color, we can now convert this one into white as well. Convert natin yung kulay. I-align natin yung color into center. Let's also adjust our padding into yan. Tapos yung text decoration natin, wag tayo maglagay ng ganyan. So that's nav menu A naman. So para dito lang yan. Right click. Yan, medyo nawala, no? Tingnan natin bakit. Ganyan talaga mawawala yan sa umpisa. Kasi nakalimutan natin maglagay dito ng yung nav menu. Inuna ko kasi si A Si nav menu, the overflow will be hidden. And of course, I would like to have a background color of gray, which is something like that. Ayun. Diba? So, home, about us, contact us. So, every time na naglalagay ka dito ng panibago pa, like, log out. Ayan. Ayun, nagpapakita siya dito. So, pagtanggalin natin itong si display block natin, let's see what will happen. Nothing. Pero, ayan. Pero necessary yan. Para ilagay natin dyan. Yung float natin, lagay natin for example kapag right. Ayun, nandito na siya. Kapag center, nandito na siya. Pag ganyan na siya. Pero, I prefer this one as left. Pag ganun. Blocks. Now, let's try to create or put here a hover effect. Kapag nag-hover tayo ng mouse dito, what will happen? Mag-change ng color, tapos magiging green siguro. No? We can do that by adding nav menu this time, a colon hover. Yan. So, dito kay a colon hover, let's change the background color na every time nag-hover, nagiging white. Tapos, nag-change din ng color, nagiging green. Yan. Tingnan natin. Refresh. Ayun na. Di ba? Amazing. So, clickable po yan lahat. Pero pag click nyo, mapupunta siya sa asterisk. Okay, goods. Next. That's navigation menu. Now, for the content section, the content section is actually the main body of your website. The user can divide content section in and column layout. The most common layouts are number one, column layout is actually mostly used for mobile layout. Itong part na to. Itong header, navigation menu, pababa. 2-column layout, left and right. 3-column layout, side, main, and side content. So, try natin gawin tong si side content na to. Kasi mas madaling mas mahirap gawin ito. Okay. So, as you noticed here, we have column A, column B, and column C. So, para gawin natin yon, punta tayo dito kay baba lang ni div class nav menu natin. Let's create here. We will be creating a division inside a division or a div. So, ibig sabihin, nested div classes. So, we have here div class. Pangalanan natin yan as a row. Yan. And inside the div classes are or is another div class which is siguro pangalanan na natin to as div class is equal to column A. Ayun. Tapos maglagay na rin tayo dito ng header number 2 na ang pangalan natin ay column A. Tignan natin. Ayun, di ba? Sa baba lang ni nav menu mismo. Next, kumpletuhin natin. Lagay tayo dito ng paragraph siguro ibang magandang lyrics na kanta. Lose yourself or yeah. Lose yourself lyrics. So, lagay tayo dito mga mga ganyan lang. Yan. Create lang tayo ng something na ganyan para at least may lyrics tayo na makita. Di ba? So, every line, lalagay tayo ng paragraph tag para mas okay. Ayan. So, lagay tayo ng paragraph tag dito. Copy, 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 copy. Tagalin natin to because everything will be end tags. Ayun. So, yan, di ba? Goods na goods. Next. Try lang natin i-copy ngayon tong si column A natin. Gawin natin siyang column B and column C. Yun. Diba? So, tatlo na yan. Siyempre, papalitan natin yung heading nito. Column B, column C. Ayun. So, pababa siya. Our target here is to place this one in the middle side. So, for us to do that, okay, number one is, of course, by simply this one. Editing the CSS version of this. So, we have here the column A, column B, column C. Diba? And that they are actually belong to the row itself. So, first of all, dito tayo sa pinaka-taas ng header. I would like to edit the entire thing. Ito, lagyan ko ng style C. Lahat. Ibig sabihin, when I added here an asterisk, meaning all, everything. Diba? So, I want the box sizing of everything to have a border box. Yan. Next, meron tayo ditong column A, column B. So, we can do this. Column B, column C. So, tatlong column ang i-edit natin into one. Ha? So, the float, they're floating into the left part. The width in between them, that's the spacing. Every statement should have a semicolon. width. Yung padding natin, gawin natin sigurong 15. Text align natin, gawin natin justify para sa lahat. Sige nga, tignan nga natin kung anong magiging itsura na ito. Ayun. Gumit na agad. Ayos. So, kung tanggalin ko na pala nga tong tong center na to. So, kung gumit na pala siya, let's try to add some more style sheets of this one. So, meron tayong header, no? H2. Hindi ko pa nalalagay yung header natin. Yung headers nito, lahat ng header, edit natin. Color green. Tapos, text align natin into center. Lahat ng to magsa-center. Ayun. Nag-ano ba to? Nag-justify ito. Text align justify. 15px. Float left. Sure. Goods na goods. Pero hindi siya totally nag-justify sa ngayon, no? Ano natin? Ayusin natin to. Column A, column B, column C. Text align. Column A, column B, column C. Alam ko na bakit di siya nag-justify. Kasi, nilagay natin sa paragraph lahat. Sige, tanggalin natin ulit to. Mali ako dun Sige, tanggalin natin lahat ng paragraph tag natin. Kaya hindi talaga mag-justify yan. Kasi hindi siya nilagay sa paragraph tags. So, isang paragraph tag lang muna. Kaya nagtataka tayo bakit hindi nag-justify yung alignment natin. Ayan. So, ganyan lang muna. Copy natin to. Paste natin dito para mapalitan lang. Paste natin dito. There you go. Ba? Yan. So, try natin palakihin yung mga font sizes nito. Let's try to add what we call the media query. It can simply set the website layout according to the screen sizes. Now, let's try to ito. Now, if you have here a screen size greater than 400 pixels and less than 600 pixels, it will look something like this. But if the screen size is less than 400 pixels, it will look something like this. So that is only possible by simply adding what we call the media queries. Dito yung may papasok yung web responsive natin, yung responsiveness ng ating website. So we have here, let's add here media, screen, tapos for as long as si max width natin is 600 pixels. Yan. Lagay natin si column A. Lagay natin si column B. Lagay natin si column C with a width of 50%. And at the same time, copy ko yan. Lagay natin si media screen pero this time max width is 400 pixels. So kapag ka nag 400 pixels yan, yung width niya is 100. Tingnan natin. So wala nangyari, no? Pero ayun. Ayun, di ba? Perfect. So, try nyo maglagay ng column D dito ngayon. Diba? So, ganito lang naman yung gagawin nyo sa performance check ninyo. Lalagay nyo lang ng coding. Okay, next. Lastly, this is what we call the footer section. The footer section is actually placed at the bottom of the web page. So, for the footer, it's really easy to do. So, pwede ka lang ding mag-create dito ng div class equals footer. Diba? So, pwede kang follow me. Kahit nga ganyan lang eh. Kaso nandito siya, no? Yung footer natin. Lagay natin sa baba para mas maganda yung itsura niya. So, syempre, kapag ka maglalagay tayo ng footer, dito tayo ngayon. Dot footer. Background color, gawin natin ding green kasi taga-UC tayo. Yung padding natin is 15 pixels. Align din natin si text niya into center. Ayun, pero medyo mali yung pagkakalagay natin. Nandito siya sa part na 'to. Tanggalin lang natin 'to. Div class equals footer. Hindi, gawin na lang nating ano 'to. Wag na lang, wag ganito na lang. Href na lang ulit. Para clickable ulit yung links. Ayan. Tapos, lagay tayo dito ng log off. Ayan. Tatlong log off kunwari. Huwag na to. Ayan, medyo naging weird, no, ang itsura. So, anyways, ganyan talaga yung magiging itsura niyan for now. Try natin tong ilagay dito sa pinakababa. Tanggalin muna natin. Okay. Footer. Actually, same lang siya pala ng ano ng header saka footer, no? Same lang siya ng idea. So, pwede nating lagay yan dito. Tanggalin ko tong footer. Lagay natin tong footer. Tapos kay div class na row, after ni div class row, dito siya. So, ganun pa rin. Tignan natin kung bakit. Ayan, tanggalin ko na lang muna tong si ano natin. Si div class natin na row. Hindi ko naman yan nagamit, no? Ayan. So, dito natin ilalagay ngayon. Dito si div classes natin. Nakuha ba natin? So, basically, this is the, of course, the header, the footer, the navigation menu, the links, and everything. Yung columns natin. Questions so far before, we can end our class? So, take note, your performance check, your written work 2 and performance check 2 is all about the way how you code them. So, be very careful po when adding your web layouts dito sa part na to. Okay? Thank you so much, guys, for listening, and see you next week.